Yes, everybody, welcome back to Twitter Reacts here, and I'm looking forward to this one. Sorry for getting kicked off a little late here. I'll admit, Dave, we were kind of, talking about Hill Messi, probably kind of maybe gloating, about maybe being the beholders of the Hill Messi prophecy. We were just having maybe a bit too much fun on the back end, just, talking about what a great night it was last night, winning 4-0 against Crystal Palace. But as a lot of people are saying in the comments, can't get too ahead of ourselves. One swallow doesn't make a summer, as plenty of people say. And like Sean says, but Dave, how we doing?
I'm absolutely buzzing, Jack. Look, I definitely agree. I was saying this last night, good win last night. I was going to enjoy it, but we've still got a lot of work to do this January. But what I will say is, Gil will tear you apart again. Honestly, great performance from Gil last night. For me, I think this is a player that we now need to stop getting on his back and just give him time to develop. Rumours coming out today that he's not being loaned anywhere. He's actually changed Antonio Conte's mind on him. So for me, I think we need to stop mixing up our frustrations with Tottenham's transfer policy and these young guys coming in here. You have to separate. When a young guy comes in here, it's clearly one for the future, and you've got to give the guy time to develop, and you've got to give Tottenham time to develop them. You can't you can't sit there and go mad about Tottenham not getting Jack Grealish when he was a youngster ahead of the time, which I agree we should have got him. But then also ridicule them for bringing in Gil, when for me, it's clearly one of them, getting him in ahead of time because they can spot the talent.
Yeah, absolutely right. I also just think that with certain types of transfers like that, to sort of think that it's going to hit the ground running, it maybe is asking a lot, but perhaps, with the patience that Spurs fans are constantly being asked for, it gets a little tiresome to sort of look at transfers, in certain summers and be like, why do we have to, wait for this guy to come good when we, want to go after someone that's going to be good immediately? But I think we have to maybe come to terms with that these guys could also be the future for us if we let them maybe have that chance, if we let them also maybe develop a little bit at Spurs. And Hill Messi, let's be honest, Dave, hasn't really been given too many chances. And I'll be fair to him, like maybe certain ones he didn't impress too much, but when you really look at the total minutes he's actually been able to be afforded at Spurs, I think he's actually done quite well with them. He's actually impressed in the times that he has come on, and the very, very, little cameo minutes that he was afforded. He always seemed to show things that kind of made us kind of had him catch our eye, really. And I think that's where maybe we came from originally, just because during the dark days of Nuno, also as well, kind of when we were recovering back from that, we sort of saw Hill Messi sort of as a player that, maybe someone this could be like a diamond in the rough for the future, almost kind of like a time capsule sort of player, maybe for later, if you will. And it's good to see maybe him have his night again, probably getting a bit ahead of ourselves, but we did know that the kid had the talent. And then, like I said, maybe on Twitter, Dave, I think Antonio Conte last night just told Hill Messi just to let his hair down.
Yeah, 100%. And what I would say to people out there, instead of using the Gil Messi carrot as a stick to beat me with, which so many have over the last while, I would encourage you now to sit there and ask me how I spotted the talent, what I seen in him that I went so early on him. Because I also went early on Romero and I got called deluded, this, that, and the other. Now everyone's sitting there praising him, singing his name, this, that, and the other. So now we can calm down with berating me for the Gil Messi thing, now that we know there's a player in there. I mean, BBC done a good piece on him on Match of the Day yesterday. Ian Wright pulled him out, singled him out, and done a bit of a cameo on him. Basically said he really likes him as well. So, look, Gil has a long way to go. Let's make no mistake about it. He still has a long way to go. We need to see more in their performances. We need to see him take the more minutes. I think he will start against Portsmouth, but against Arsenal, he'll probably be dropped to the bench because Kulu back. So how will he adapt coming off the bench? Can he still take them minutes? Can he still have that same impact? Let's wait and see. But right now, I'm in a Gil Messi bubble, and no one's taking me out of it for a few days. I'm enjoying this.
Let it ride, Dave. Let it ride. But let's get to the chat here, see what they have to say after this 4-0 win against Crystal Palace. We have Frank Gu in the chat. Good to see you, saying Levy out, as well as Sue Smith saying Levy out and Enoch out. Like I brought up in the very beginning of my little intro, of course, we got plenty, ahead of ourselves with the 4-0 win. But it also was just sort of because we were that desperate, really, just to feel good again watching Tottenham Hotspur, just to feel like we could at least ride out 30 minutes without having to feel like we needed to smoke 10 packs of cigarettes and have to unwind, for, a few hours, because it's been really, really rough before that. And it was just good to be able to kind of have positive vibes as Spurs fans, and we really deserved it. But Sue Smith, as you probably know, it doesn't distract from the message at all. It doesn't distract from the message at all. And it was really only one win in the span of a pretty bad form, let's be honest. Absolutely. Spencer, good win, but Levy out, Enoch out. Exactly, Spencer. Probably put it more simply than I just did right there. Well done to you, Spencer. Ryan McLaughlin in the house. Every day is Enoch out, and or Mac F. Every day is Enoch out and Levy out day. Love it, Ryan. Rob Simmons, Levy in. Going further, Rob's asking for it today. Jay Green, am I dreaming, or did we actually score first? If Dave, I mean, that's probably also kind of a new level for Spurs to see us scoring first for once, and also clean sheets.
Jack, after the game, I had to run into the missus. I had to wake her up. I was like, pinch me. And she was like, what are you on about, Dave? I was like, I need to make sure I'm not dreaming, that we actually did score first. We didn't concede a goal. We didn't concede first, and we won 4-0. But turns out, Jack, it's true. So, Jay, it's true, my man. We did. Big up, man. Big up, brother.
Daniela Zito, good to see you. Daniela Sarr, impressed. He should start on Saturday. He's a must start, isn't he, Dave? I mean, he had a fantastic game. What are your thoughts quickly, Dave, actually, Pape Matar Sarr? I mean, are you kind of maybe what do you think? Hill Messi kind of as well? Daddy Sarr, are you still feeling Daddy Sarr vibes the next day?
Yeah, Jack, I think he's a player I really like, to be honest with you. Even just the impact yesterday coming off the bench. And I highlighted this yesterday. For me, I think the difference between someone like Ollie Skip and Pape Matar Sarr right now is Ollie Skip looked like he didn't want to get on the ball yesterday in the middle in fear of losing. It was Pape Matar Sarr came on. He gets the ball. He'll move it right. He'll move it left. And what I've seen glimpses of, I'm not going to say he's this sort of player or he's going to end up being this good, but Michael Carrick, sitting in a deeper role, moving the ball left to right and moving left to right as well to be able to get into positions to receive it. And when he came on against Philly, he also looked good. That friendly where he came on as well, picked up the ball in tight spaces. He knows how to beat a man. For me, I really like Pape Matar Sarr, and I think he deserves 90 minutes against Portsmouth at the weekend. But we're in a bit of a dilemma because Basuma will obviously have to play because he was suspended last night. You're going to want to get minutes into his legs, get him going. Skip, you also need to try and get him going. Then you also got Pape Matar Sarr there, who, for me, I think deserves minutes as well. So a big call for Conte on Saturday. It'd be interesting to see what he does, or even if he goes with all three, Jack.
Probably give Hojbjerg a rest because he looks like he might need one, and that's even coming from a very dedicated Hojbjerg lover as well, Daniela. So yeah, it'd be nice to see Hojbjerg be given a rest. Craig Bowler, Levy in, Enoch, and let Paratici cook. Free Spence, it's going after it there, Craig. Mick Hermelot, good afternoon, Jack and Dave. Good to see you, Mick, as always. Zoe back, Conte, Hill Messi, and Hill Messi is the future, isn't he, Zoe? And then Kulusevski, I think, is also the truth. Moldy Pickle, Doherty from last night, Docadinho from last night, Phil as well. Big up, lads. Buzzing for the result last night. Was nice to see Sonny smiling again. The timing is perfect for that North London derby next week. Onwards and upwards. Like I kind of said with Sonny in my message, Phil, and you'll probably, if you didn't see it already, in the community section, I mean, I thought he played well in the first 20 minutes. Like, again, we're not talking about, a Sonny that's, returning back to, his old form by any means. But I thought he had a solid first 20 minutes that might get probably forgotten and maybe might get overlooked. And you have to look at that, is that when a player maybe is struggling for form, nice to see them kind of start well. He then kind of, I thought, disappeared after that. And some of maybe his touches and hold up play did start to kind of let him down. But I felt like in the beginning, I remember some really good first time passes, kind of some good first touches that he was able to hold up the play. And we looked good in that first 20. And then we sort of disappeared after that. But he got his goal. He got off the mark, got off his scoring duct. And it's really all you can ask for, I think, at the end of the day there, Phil. And that's good to see for Sonny. It's kind of good for everybody in the whole 11, really. Hill Messi got to have his night. Sonny gets off the scoring duct, Harry Kane with the brace. Everybody's happy. Carl Simpson, big up, David and Jack. Good to see you as always, Carl. Adrian Schroka as well. We have Mark. Good to see you, Adrian. Mark as well. Transfer rumors all about midfield, attack, and right wing back. Nothing about the big issue that is replacing Dyer. Yeah, as well as people. I hope people aren't saying Dyer in after last night either. I hope we don't have to go through that again. Colin Turner, afternoon, gents. Big up, Colin Turner. Sugar Pebbles 28. Need to hear some Spurs versus Portsmouth lineup predictions. Hopefully either Decky or Bentancur are back. Maybe if we got time for it, Sugar. But I would say for me, Pape Matar Sarr has to be in there. I agree with Dave. Basuma should probably be thrown in as well after missing that last game on suspension. Bentancur's, I think, sort of returning back if, maybe for the North London derby. If he is available, you probably would want to give him some minutes there. Decky is such an interesting one. I almost would preserve him in kind of, like a hypo chamber, Dave, until the North London derby. I wouldn't even need to risk him against Portsmouth. I'd probably actually just play Hill Messi again.
For me, I think you can play Hill. I think you've got options further down in the underage. I think you've got likes of Will Lancashire, Jamie Donnelly, Alfie Devine, Harvey White. All these other players can step in. There's no need to play Kane, a Son, a Kulu. Give them all a rest and make sure they're all ready and raring to go for the North London derby. I think, look, you might see a couple on the bench, just in case we need them. But for me, I don't want to see any of them play. I want to see them rested for the North London derby. Look, it's Portsmouth. They're League Two? I mean, you should be beating them. Even the youngsters should be beating them. So for me, I don't want to see any of our first team players put out there with a risk of injury, this, that, or the other.
And they're going to be without.
Probably need minutes.
And they're going to be without our man Dane Scarlett as well. They're going to be sort of strikerless without our star. So, and they've definitely been able to get the best out of him so far, I think, this season. So we've heard. Daniel Sandoval, big up. One love, guys. Come on, you Spurs. Big up, Daniel. We also have Tequila in the house. I'm a changed man. Don't do this, Tequila. I'm a changed man. He's my hero. The bald-headed magic man has done it again. In forever and ever. Feels like Tequila.
I don't know whether he's joking us or trolling us.
He's Tequila, Dave. I mean, you can't predict the Tequila. It could be a troll. He could be, completely serious. That's how the Tequila works sometimes. But I think we all know Tequila's, taking a mick here on us. But appreciate you, my man. And good to see you in here, Tequila, as always. And let me know if you were celebrating the margaritas. If the margaritas were out last night after the 4-0 win. Big up. And let me know what you think of Ebericha Eze. If we had Eze and Hill Messi in the same team, Tequila, that would be absolute sauce. Eamon Burns, hello, guys. Big up, Eamon. We also have CCH. Sarr looked like he was really good, even better than Skip. I think that's what a lot of people are even asking for Pape Matar Sarr to start ahead of Skip even before that game. Wemberley in the house. Afternoon, boys. I think Hill needs to start again on Saturday. A good opportunity to help build his confidence further. Just said the same thing, Wemberley. Absolutely agree with you. KPV is in the house. We weren't able to cue the music, KPV, but we'll be able to do it when you're back here with us. Big up, my man. Stevie Frazier. Big up, David and Jack. We all slept. We all slept well. Hey, like what Conte was saying about keeping the young players who are doing well. Hope Spence can play in and play well against Portsmouth and change his mind. If he's given 90 minutes, maybe he could change his mind, Stevie. You never know. Big up, my man. Good to move a little quickie here. Catch up with everybody. Sushant Busal is in the house. Time to back Conte, please. Board and the board. Big up, Jack. David, love you guys. Big up, Sushant. Really appreciate you, man. Colin Turner as well. Spence not getting time was strange. Hill needs the applause. He was heavily involved in 3 of the goals. Absolutely right. I think he was probably the man of the match, if anything. Maybe one of the men of the matches when you look at it. Moldy Pickle, there must be an issue with Spence to not play him if Sarr and Hill are getting time. It feels like maybe he has confidence in certain young players, Dave, but maybe not Spence is kind of, the consistent message.
For me, I think, look, he wanted a certain level or caliber of player at right wing back. He didn't get it. And for me, if he plays Spence, it allows Enoch and Levy to do that to him again in the transfer window. So for me, sticking to his guns. I said this last night. I don't agree with it. I don't agree that any young player should be brought in here and be used as a pawn between the owners and the management. That should not be allowed to happen at any sort of club. I think it's absolutely, completely wrong. But I don't blame Conte for sticking by his methods, his beliefs, because if he doesn't, he's not going to get what he wants. Yeah.
It feels like, he's going to probably just kind of be steadfast on it. He doesn't want to budge there. And it kind of more has to do with sort of, his integrity about, not letting Enoch or Levy win in that situation. You're right, Dave. Carl Higgins.
McCormick as well, by the way. Colin Sarr, love it.
Love that. Carl Higgins, and he's got, good kind of a base around him. I think he has the likes of Basuma, who's, gone through the French league and is, trying to make it through the Premier League right now. And he has Yaya Toure to teach him. He's got so many good influences. And he's got the Hojbjerg, the Viking. Carl Higgins, even when he wasn't playing so well, he fought for everything. And I think he's referring to Hill Messi there and maybe Pape Matar Sarr. To be honest, both of them, I feel like, Carl, have such kind of a, maybe, how would you put this, Dave? A lot of young players, they kind of get that tag of, not really working very hard off the ball. Sometimes maybe just waiting for the game to come to them. They're brilliant with the ball with their feet, but they don't really work too hard to get involved in the games. They kind of disappear a lot. Where it feels like maybe players like Messi and Pape Matar Sarr, they're just running everywhere, running after it, trying to win the ball back, kind of things that you don't always associate with maybe young players like that. You associate it with good young players who are clearly hungry to, to achieve and are clearly hungry to try to get into a team, of course. But you know what I'm trying to say.
I do, Jack. If I was a youngster coming into a team, I'd be running complete all the time off the ball, looking to get onto it. And when we don't have it, I'll be hunting down harder than anybody else to try and get it back. And it's actually something me and Wright highlighted about Gil yesterday, about even when he doesn't have the ball, how hard and how energetic he is about trying to go after and getting it, or at least putting pressure on it to force them to go along so he can try and recycle it. And for me, I've said this about Gil. I love how good he is on the ball and the little movements he makes to be able to get on it. But I also find how hard he works off the ball, enthusiastic. The last couple of games, even against Villa, where you would say maybe it didn't work out, one thing I noticed is even though he's playing on the right-hand side, Jack, he has no problem running across to the centre and pressing and picking up Harry Kane's slack. Because Harry Kane will not go and really press the keeper, whereas you watch Gil, he would just go from the full-back straight onto the goalkeeper. And I love that about him. He kind of picks up for other people's maybe slack.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about this quickly. Move on the quiet. Don't say nothing. Can we not pick up Bryan Gil? Made a few passes and kept falling over. He was like out of something like all sorts. He won't be playing against Arsenal. Can assure you now. I think this. Yeah, Dave.
I was going to say the second part. I think. Look, I've already said that he's not going to start against Arsenal for sure. But I'll be honest. The first part, I think you're on your own with that today. If I'm being brutally honest, I mean, look. Match of the Day done a highlight piece on him yesterday. A lot of pundits praising him. A lot of people who maybe weren't his biggest fans are now sitting there going, well, look, there is a bit of a player in there. Let's see how it develops. Now, like I said, I'm getting carried away with it because I'm in my Gil Messi bubble and no one's going to take me out of it. I'm not saying everyone else has to. I'm just asking, can we please just let some of these youngsters get off their back and just give them time to develop? Let's see what they can do.
Martin Walton in the house. Afternoon, lads. Feels great to get a win yesterday. I think you deserved one, Martin. Absolutely deserved one. Good to see you in here. Ian Ferguson, the Gil Messi that has been promised. Big up, Ian. One of the beholders of the Gil Messi prophecy we know as well, Dave. Ian Ferguson. Good to see you in here. Mackie Scrolls, he's saying Sarr over Hojbjerg, our new Dembele. I think he's probably already saying Daddy Sarr. Maybe he was alongside Sean last night. He's kind of given up on the Viking. He's all about Daddy Sarr. Don't blame you. Terrific performance.
I just want to go back to this quickly as well. One assist. I think he was also involved in the two other goals yesterday as well, heavily. So it's not really an accurate reflection saying he only made a few passes, kept falling over. He assisted Harry Kane's goal. He was hugely influential in, I think it was Doherty's goal. And he was just all over the place last night. So let's not forget how influential he was in some of the goals going forward.
We'll talk about this later too, but it's not even just football that he's super talented in. It's not even just football. He's talented up and coming music career as well, Gil Messi. But Martin Walton saying Daddy Sarr and Hojbjerg could be a very good partnership. Will complement each other very well in a double pivot. I mean, they're tall, lanky, both exceptional with the ball at their feet, getting past players. Kind of carrying it. I would say maybe Pape Matar Sarr as well loves to ping it as well. He has no problem, kind of going for a long pass or going for a long shot. That's maybe where I would say Bentancur could work a bit more on, as while he scored goals this season, he doesn't exactly have, I would say, one of the best sort of kind of, maybe driven kind of, shots from distance or anything. Whereas maybe Pape Matar Sarr could kind of bring that into the team. He kind of seems to sort of have, I don't know, he's a bit of an X factor sort of kind of kid by the looks of things. Seems to have kind of a lot of different sort of skill sets available to him. Good to see you, T.O. Isaac. Also as well, we got Cantab in the building. Sebas Wolf, good to see you, Sebas. It's been a while, my friend, or less. Maybe I've missed you, Sebas, but good to see you in here, my friend. Hopefully all is well. It's been very misty, Sebas. It's been very misty outside. I'm kind of liking this weather. It feels like California right now. Big up, my man. SOF. Hill gets knocked off the ball too easily against better teams. I don't see him being very effective for that reason. Has to gain strength and muscle to make it in the Premier League. I think Conte more or less said something similar, SOF, where he really praises, his intelligence, praises his, ability on the ball, but he still said, of course, he has to develop physically and learn how to, handle the Premier League, because the Premier League is the most physical league in the world at the end of the day. Big up SOF. Leighton Evelyn. And if we go out, then what? Against Portsmouth, Leighton, how are we feeling today? Didn't he go for a win yesterday, Dave?
Yeah, he actually changed it. He went for a win yesterday. He got his win. The power of positive thinking, Leighton. That's what I will say, my man. But no, big yourself up. Look, I don't want to go out of the FA Cup. I didn't even want to go out of the Carabao Cup. I didn't even want to go out of the Europa Conference League last season, because for me, I don't think we can afford to turn up any opportunities of a trophy at this football club. Every trophy for me is one I want to go and win. But the North London Derby is important. I know there's a week between the Portsmouth game and the North London Derby, I believe. But look, for me, there comes a point. You've got to start giving some of these youngsters a chance in these cup games, especially the likes of a Portsmouth, because you have to give a pathway for these youngsters to come through. Because if not, eventually these youngsters will stop coming to Tottenham once there's no pathway. It's that simple. Jamie Donnelly's father is already starting to tweet about it. He wasn't happy that none of the youngsters were selected on the bench against Aston Villa. It happened again against Palace yesterday. If there's no pathway for these youngsters, well then they're just going to stop coming. And even if we want to try and get the best in here to bring them through to save us future fees, they won't come.
Major shout out to Catman Jess as well. He actually was feeling the vibes yesterday, Catman. I think you went for a massive win as well. I remember you sending in that membership milestone, Catman Jess. That was, honestly, I don't know what. Maybe you were speaking to William Kelly's oracle. It sounded like I don't know. Somehow you knew. Somehow you were. Maybe you read Adrian Chia's script. I don't know how you got in on that, Catman Jess. Big up, my man. We have the coin as well in the house. Derek Hutchinson, good as well. Always good to see you, Derek Hutchinson. Really appreciate you, my man. Kyle Vijay, good to see you, Vijay. And then Sean, EJ, Daniel Spencer is in the house too. Good to see you, Spencer. Patty Harnett, evening, folks. How is the American and the Limerick today? Doing all well, Patty. I think, probably in our Hill Messi bubble right now, maybe a bit intolerable maybe to some. But hopefully, you can tolerate us for now, Patty. And really good to see you in here, my friend.
The Limerick, man. I don't want to be Limerick, trust me. I'm happy being Kildare, home of the heroes, home of the army, my man. Big up, Paddy. And then
yeah, you got to take it away.
We are talking TV. Bryan Gil. I presume this is Benji. If not, it's Simeon. But what I will say is, Hill will tear you apart again. Come on. No one's taking me out my bubble today, tomorrow, Saturday, or Sunday. I'm in it up until Sunday, so no one take me out of it, please. Or even try. It won't happen.
What's that coming over the hill?
It's Messi. Is it Messi? When I saw his face, I said, I'm a believer. Come on.
Question to Jack and Dave: would you sell Kane in the summer if he doesn't sign a new contract to use to fund a rebuild? Tequila, I think, especially, it's a good question, but especially if you're ENIC out, Levy out, I would say you would never want to succumb to that sort of situation where you're being forced to have to sell your best player to fund, building out the rest of the squad. It's sort of like a backwards move, if not kind of a lateral move of some kind. It just doesn't, what you would rather have is, build around Kane, of course, ideally, and then have Kane actually win the trophies that he deserves, being the best striker in the world. And he hasn't been able to get that sort of appreciation because he doesn't have always the best squad around him. Tequila. And so I would just say never sell Harry Kane. In fact, sell Harry Kane maybe when he's 36, 37 to Sampdoria and let him finish it out for, 5 more years there. Then maybe, have him go to the Tottenham Hotspur NFL team that will be available probably in 30 years time. Have him come back and be a kicker.
Look, I don't want to sell Kane. Never have done. Never want to. If he doesn't sign that contract, unfortunately, as much as I don't like it, it will actually probably come to a point where, because of the value that you could probably get from, you have to start thinking about selling him on if he doesn't want to sign that contract, rather than holding on to him, letting the contract run down and receive absolutely nothing for the guy. Look, I think it's one we'll have to probably look, like I said, you probably have to think about if it comes to it, if he doesn't sign that new contract. As much as I don't want to, Tequila, I would much rather keep him around. But I get the song now. Bryan Gil, Bryan Gil, Bryan Gil. Na 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 na. Come on, big up, boys.
Good to see you in the house. Appreciate you guys tuning in as well. Good. I mean, they're feeling the Hill Messi vibes. They're in their own Hill Messi bubbles. You know, the brothers today. Tottenham forever. How happy are Dave and Jack? Big up. Love you both. Really appreciate you, my man. I mean, we're just in the Bryan Hill bubble. I think you know what it's like. You know, it's a nice space, good place for friends just to hang out. You know, just watch a few Hill Messi highlights. You know, big fans of the shoulder feints and the hip movements. Just good people in the Hill Messi bubble, my friend. Good people in there. Also, as well, going to say hi to Savvy and Christopher B. And then 4 Earth below. What position did Sarr play? Please, guys. I think he just played in that sort of 2-man pivot alongside Hojbjerg there. But it felt like maybe he was just sort of brought in to be that leg and energy to kind of get the play going a bit more and maybe not allow us to give the ball away too much. Because what he kept doing, Dave, for me was just picking up the ball and actually turning upfield and getting the, you know, kind of driving us up the pitch a bit more when we probably needed that to also kind of, you know, put Palace maybe, you know, I don't know, take their momentum away, sort of take their own kind of a tempo away. And I think he did that exceptionally. And actually, he did a lot of things that we always accused Harry Winks of never doing, which is basically, you know, being a bit more brave and courageous on the ball.
Do you know what? I thought I'd be able to get, since Harry Winks was loaned out, I thought I'd be able to escape hearing his name. I think I heard it like 10 times. Heard it 10 times over the last few days. Like, what's going on? We don't even have to sit there and talk about the guy anymore. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. Kev Williams. Hi, Dave and Jack. Great 3 points. Let's push on from this and take as much confidence as possible. Big game against Portsmouth to move on in the cup there. My man, Kelvin as well. Rico 79 or Z99. And I don't know if Claude Murphy as well. Big up, Claude Murphy. Good to see you in here. Big up. Let's get into the Twitter, Dave.
Let's get into it, Jacko. Let's see what people are saying out there. Excuse my Twitter account, by the way. I've got loads of tweets out there. I just enjoyed myself.
All right, everybody. So this... So this, everybody here, is Spurs fans should know that while he's pretty good at football, Hill Messi has a beautiful voice and an up-and-coming music career. And then I wasn't supposed to play the music there for a second, but hopefully that one went okay. But that was kind of the whole joke of it, is that, Dave, even if you don't like Hill Messi, you know, he has a pretty good voice as well.
Yeah, look, he's multi-talented, Jack, you know. We call him the 5th member of the Beatles for a reason, Jack, you know.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's where it comes from, everybody. So maybe check that out. The Irish Hotspur, this is the tweet that we'll be getting to later. But also, Dave, this is what apparently the Spurs song sheet have already come up with. I mean, they're quite quick on the mark to already be coming up with a Hill Messi song. You love to see it.
I'm absolutely all over, Jack. I mean, I rose out of the bed like a phoenix today, Jack, through the ashes. And this is one of the first things I got to listen to. And I mean, it just made my day. I was there making a coffee in my boxers, Jack, bopping up and down to Gil would tear you apart again. Honestly, I don't think it was a pretty sight for the missus, but I enjoyed myself.
No, you have to love it. You have to love it. I mean,
Can we
honestly,
play it, though? Are we not play it?
Let's see. Let's go for it. Having a technical nightmare.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I'm all over it.
Then as well, Dave, let's get to your tweet here. Spurs fan, what are your thoughts after that performance? Kane back to his best. Son back on the score sheet. Great away support tonight behind the team. Hill Messi appreciation post. Tag me up. We didn't get enough of that, actually. Probably need better work on the Hill Messi front. More people need to get in the bubble. And there you are, everybody. 4-0 to Palace. Tottenham NYC 2-3. If Kane and Son get back to the likes of the 2/3 or 3/4 of classic Kane and Son, then we should get into the Champions League. I think the tune could slip up a bit during the second half of the season, win the North London Derby and win one of those 2 quick matches against City. And we should be right in the thick of it, especially before Milan. He's thinking so far in the future. Antonio Conte's thinking far in the future here, pointing at all the fixtures that they need to get their asses in gear for, Dave. I mean, do you agree with Tottenham NYC here that maybe a 2/3 of a Harry Kane, 2/3 of a vintage Sonny, and maybe, you know, some backing in this January transfer window, some wins in January as well, some important wins? I mean, could this all, you know, doom and gloom be behind us?
Look, I think this is why Spurs fans are in an uproar at the minute, Jack, because we're in a position where we could very easily go one way or we could very easily go the other. Now, what I agree with here is I would like to see Kane and Son get back to what we know what they do best, which is the link-up play. If we can get that going with Kulu, the other side, keep him fit, brilliant. But, we've seen the inconsistencies across the back line. Clean sheet yesterday. Didn't have barely anything to do against Aston Villa, and we concede. So, for me, I maintain this. We have to have a good January transfer window in order for us to kick on in the right direction. We have to have a good right wing back in here that Conte wants. You have to bring in another centre back that's good enough that Conte wants. And maybe another player, whether it's a Cam or a player in the forward areas. But at the end of the day, in order for us to kick on, we have to get some bodies in here. Because I'm not relying on some of them guys who've let me down so far this season, week in, week out, to all of a sudden just pick up and go and have that run. I said it last night. Even if we do have that run, there's still going to be games in between, like last season, Brighton, Brentford, where, results will take that turn, where maybe we can't score, we can't keep a clean sheet, this, that, or the other. So we do need reinforcements in here January to kick on, and we need other players. We need all hands to the pump, Jack. We need Dyer to come to the fore because he's not going to be sold this January, so we need him to have a good back end of the season. We need Doherty to have a good back end to the season, keep that pressure on at the right wing spot. We need all hands to the pump, Jack. Absolutely everybody has to get going.
Zoe saying Hill Messi needs to do a duet with Brad. Absolutely agree, Zoe. And also move on the quiet, don't say nothing. Someone tell Hill to never have a mustache as he looks like Peter Sutcliffe. He has way too many doppelgangers, I think. He's actually got to get rid of the mustache, maybe trim the hair a bit. He looks like way too many people all at once. Howard Wolowitz, we know as well. It's just too many doppelgangers, to be honest, for one man. Go Spurs. Son was terrible tonight. Again, Hill was impressive, but his passing left something to desire in the first half. Doherty's goal hides some terrible play as well. Kane, technical, masterful, dogged, dragging this team on his back to success. Dave, I mean, that's like poetic. You probably need to frame that part about Harry Kane. I mean, that just sounds gorgeous to listen to. But the part that highlights for me here, Go Spurs, Doherty's goal hides some terrible play as well. I kind of sort of agree with the fact that he was really uninspiring and really kind of, I thought, poor until that goal. But it was a spectacular finish and a spectacular goal that, while even Emerson defenders out there probably would admit Emerson wouldn't have scored. I don't think Emerson would have had a left-footed finish like the one that Doherty had. But I agree, though, that I think Doherty's goal does probably hide some poor moments. I thought his first touch let him down in a lot of situations. He never really had a good cross at any stage, especially when he was in good areas as well. And it was probably a bit of an average performance, but he scored a goal with his left foot that, I'll be honest, I don't think Emerson would have scored, that actually had a bit more technical quality than, let's say, Emerson might have. But with Hill Messi, absolutely impressive. And Kane, technical, masterful, dogged, dragging this team on his back to success. I mean, huge Kane appreciation there.
I'll be honest, I don't even think I could have came up with that. I need to speak to this guy. Me and him need to collab and, send the message out about Kane. The way he's written it, Jack, it's really poetic. It's beautiful. But look, really on Kane, I remember I brought up an article in the pre-match build-up where it did say about Kane, where even though he's a top scorer, there's a lot of inconsistencies in his performances this year. One week, one game, brilliant. The next game, you don't see him. Hence, the Villa game, didn't see him last night. Absolutely brilliant. And he does need to look to be a bit more consistent. But what he done last night, Jack, is he got involved in the build-up play.
Yeah.
And that was the difference between last night and the Villa game. More of that. But I agree. I mean, the header, no one was moving him off that. An immovable object flying through the air. You just don't have a chance. It's absolutely unbelievable.
The bravery in which he does it, too.
And demanding that pass. You go back and look at that goal. Harry Kane is demanding that pass. The fingers out. I want it here. Put it into my stride. Let me finish this. Absolutely wonderful. Brilliant by Kane last night.
Yeah, it's just ruthless finishes. Really ruthless. THFC till I die. Great win. Great performance by Hill. Kane, great. That Son goal got his goal. Not let's take this win at the weekend and win at the weekend and then beat the scum. We can get top 4 and a cup win. I am back in the team. And Conte, let's go. Come on, you Spurs. Woohoo! Says Dermot here. Dave, do you think he's also in the Hill Messi bubble this morning, Dermot?
Oh, I'd say so, Jack. I'd say
Dermotron?
he's all over it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say he's just. I'd literally say Dermot's in a bubble, just walking into things. To be honest with you, Jack. But
Knocking everything over.
yeah, just walking through things. Get out the way. I'm in my Gil bubble. But one thing I think he does highlight is the importance for Sonny getting on the goal on the score sheet yesterday. Absolutely buzzing for the guy, Jack. And I think it'll do him the world of good. You could see what it meant to him. The smile, the instant relief on his face. Yeah. He needed it. He needed it. And for me, I actually don't think, I think he had an all right game yesterday. I think there was plenty of good he done yesterday. He was heavily involved in the Doherty goal as well. You know, he could have easily shot, even though the defender was right in front of him. He knew it was going to be blocked. He didn't. He held it up, and the ball, I know he went to play it across, but ended up finding his way to Doherty. So for me, I thought Sonny had a decent game. The most important thing is Sonaldo's on the score sheet.
Absolutely. I can't get excited. Steve D here. I can't get excited and struggle to see others going over the top with winning against a side that lost to Everton and Forest. I enjoy the banter, but to be honest, I don't hate Conte. He just needs multiple circumstances that Spurs won't provide and never will. The slide will continue 100%. I'm afraid. I kind of, I appreciate that point he kind of makes at the end there, Dave, where it's like, even like kind of regardless of whether you like Conte or dislike Conte, and he's saying he doesn't have like a huge agenda or anything against Conte here. He just feels like a man like Conte demands certain things, demands certain circumstances like he's put here that Spurs just, have never really provided and don't have a history of providing. Essentially, in simpler words, he won't be backed, and Conte needs to be backed. And that's where Steve D kind of, is conflicted on the situation. It's like, why have a manager like Conte if he's not going to be backed?
Look, I think that's why even people that like Conte and want him in, that everyone's still saying the same thing. What's the point of bringing in a manager here to do it your way, which has shown failure, when you brought him in here to bring us his way, which is trophies? So give him what he needs. Look, for me, like I've said, I could be wrong on Antonio Conte. I could be wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not. I could be. But at the end of the day, I'm maintaining what I say. I want certain individuals rotated out of this squad, and then I want to see where we're at with Antonio Conte and moving forward. Because you get rid of Conte now, the likes of Dyer, Davies, Sanchez, Lucas Moura, people like that, Lloris, they win. The next manager comes in, you'll see a bit of a bounce, and then we'll sit here going into next season again, form dropping off a cliff, doing the same cycle and the same shit again. So that's why I'm not throwing any manager under the bus here anymore until things change in the transfer department, giving them exactly what they want, and until certain individuals have gone out of this squad. Because what I see now and what I've seen going around is exactly the way it was under Jose and the way it started under Jose before he got sacked. And I'm not going to let another manager do that, because we do this to another world-class manager, but then we're going to have to sit here and accept project managers and not managers' careers that are maybe on the rise. So I don't want to go that route.
Ribsy here. Good to see you in here, Ribsy. I really hope something clicked in the second half. We dropped points we should have got already since the World Cup. Stopping the backslide here was important. I really like how we put that earlier, where if we absolutely drop points that we shouldn't have before this World Cup, and there's no getting around that. If we can really rally around this result, things will only get easier as we get some of our guys also returning back from injury. Again, Ribsy's kind of thinking 4 steps ahead here, kind of like that guy with the Conte gif from earlier, Dave. He's thinking 4 steps ahead here. I'm loving it, Ribsy. Might even retweet this. It was also very well written, my friend.
Ribsy all over it. Big up, Ribsy. Good to see you, brother.
The lovely Mark New, Hill, Messi, and Sarr will take us to the promised land. Paratici.
There's almost a song in that, Jack. Isn't there, in that headline? There's a song?
Maybe a Mark New, probably Brad Matthews, Hill Messi could all maybe collaborate here on a song. Lots of artistic minds on it, Dave. Lots of artistic minds. Paratici is the Don, and Conte we trust. Come on, you Spurs. Come on, you Army. Come on, you Black Up Army. I always love how Mark New always throws in a free Jet Spencer. Paratici is the Don. Like, it could be about anything on this earth, Dave. You could be talking about what you have for dinner, and you could say Paratici is the Don. As a hashtag. Love that, Mark New.
I love it, Mark. Pick yourself up, brother.
Jason Fox, don't forget about the start, stunning, or maybe don't forget about the start of the game, stunning performance from him.
No, he means about Sarri. He told me. Look, on that, I actually really wanted to include it in, but as you know, on Twitter, you've only got a certain amount of characters. I tried to be as efficient as I could. I couldn't get everyone in there. And for me, Gil or Sarr, you know me, I had to go with Gil Messi. I apologize. I had
But
to.
we don't want to be latecomers to the Daddy Sar train, Dave, because it looks like Sean, is one of kind of Sean's an efficient man. He's not going to be waiting too long at the station, for the Daddy Sar train. He's going to be, running a tight ship over there. So we probably got to get on that Daddy Sar train, as soon as possible. So you're probably right there, Jason.
Mm.
KPV, Kane and Sonny linking up was brilliant. Hill Messi was outstanding. Come on, you Spurs. Come on, KPV.
Come
Love
on.
that. Love getting a Hill Messi out of him from KPV.
He
That's
loves it.
brilliant.
He's all over it.
Do you think he was using them in the FIFA last night, Dave, like yourself?
Oh, 100% he was, Jack. I mean, honestly, I just put him in a cam roll, gave him the ball, and just let him do Gil things. I believe KPV was definitely at the same.
Oh yeah, he's probably, maybe even did a Hill Messi career mode, just him and Hill Messi, just kind of going for the promised land, like Mark New was saying. K Vijay at the Irish Y. Arsenal have only scored 3 more goals than us. We need defenders and wingbacks. I brought this up the other day, Dave, and I was kind of statless for the most part yesterday, but the one stat I did bring was it was kind of the drum that we've always beat here on this channel, which is basically this defense is one of the top 10, or it's I think it's sitting 8th or 9th or whatever it is in terms of goals conceded in the Premier League. But then when it comes to scoring goals with this team, we're still sitting at 3rd, maybe even 4th. I think it's actually 3rd or 4th, I believe, for goals scored. And just tells you that it's been this defense still the whole time. Like, we can score goals, no problem. In fact, we just won 4-0 against Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park, a place where we've always struggled. But it's always keeping goals out that we've all, continued time after time after time to struggle with. And it just is reflected even in the league table when you look at goal difference, when you look at goals conceded and goals scored.
Yeah, but I want to be careful here. I don't want people to stumble across this like this is some new thing. I've been beating the drum last summer. I've been beating at the end of last season about this defense. I don't need to sit there and to be told because we're 3 goals behind Arsenal, we need new defenders and wingbacks. I've been highlighting it all along. I could foresee these problems coming. But what I will say, hopefully more and more people wake up to it now, because there's been a fair bit of resistance on my towards me when I have said about the defenders. A lot of people, and for me, now I just think we need to wake up and we need the changes there. It's obvious. It's been obvious for so long. But big up VJ. I love that. Keep beating the drum, buddy.
God is an atheist. Didn't get to watch the second half, but I see from reviews, Sar was fire, absolutely fire. You got to get on that train, my man. Daddy Sar. That's all you need to know, my friend, is Daddy Sar. I'm just going to make sure I didn't. You had like a good tweet from earlier, Dave, and I kind of bookmarked it. So let me get back down to it. I believe it was this. Bryan Gil, Pape Matar Sarr, Jed Spence, Destiny Udogie. The future looks bright and is safe in Paratici's hands. And I've had to remind you, Dave, I mean, Kulusevski is only so young as well. He's practically one of the younger players in the squad, and he's already looking close to like a world-class player. Romero is a World Cup winner, and what is he, 24, 25 as well? Still has plenty of years left in him and still plenty of learning to do. I mean, Paratici has been able to identify talent and young talent exceptionally well.
No, look, I think he has. Look, actually, if you remember, Jack, I don't know if you remember, I think I actually mentioned this on a podcast we done a while ago about some of these young signings that we have coming in here, that there is a plan, it looks like, in terms of future talent, that there is that sort of part with that plan there with some of the players we brought in. I highlighted this on a previous podcast we done. And for me, when you look at it, Bryan Gil, I think after last night, even the most staunch Bryan Gil Messi haters will probably say, look, give the kid a chance. Let's see where he can go. You got Pape Matar Sarr. I think everyone likes him. Jed Spence, I believe, will come good as well, given the opportunities. Who's the other one I mentioned there, Jack?
Udogie as well.
Absolutely ripping it up. Everybody likes him. Not only that, you've got Alfie Devine hanging around there, who everyone tips to come true. We signed in with Lancashire. There's a couple of other youngsters we can add to it. Like you said, Kulusevski's not that old. This, that, and the other. So there is that. We do have some good players in some positions for future. Now it's up to us to develop them, and that's where we have gone wrong sometimes over the last few years, is not being able to develop these guys. So it's all well and good bring them in. Now we have to develop them. But again, Just let Paratici work.
Yeah,
Just
just
let
let
him
him
work.
cook. Let him cook. I mean, you don't have to tell Mark that, Dave. He puts it, like I said, in every single tweet every single tweet he puts out there. He says, "Let the man cook." Anthony Rose, pick up to Dave and Jack from Australia. Question for you guys: 14 managers in 22 years. No manager has ever been back. So why did Conte come knowing that? Come on, you Spurs. It's a
What I will
difficult question
say,
to answer, Dave. Yeah, go ahead.
what I will say is, remember, first time he turned us down. That's why we ended up with Nuno, because he turned us down. We had to give him some serious convincing to come here, and
Mm,
that's why he's here now. I think he took a chance on Tottenham. I think he was probably given a bit more assurances than what he's been given. That's why he hasn't signed that new contract, because I think maybe he's still waiting for them assurances. But we got away with it. We're lucky that he's here. Very, very lucky. But when you think about it, Jose Mourinho, Pochettino, and Conte, they all can't be wrong. And after this, there's only so many top-level managers that are out in the game. So after this, you've already gone through 3 of probably 6 or 7. Where do you turn after this? Klopp ain't coming here. Guardiola ain't coming here. That knocks off another 2. So after this, you're going back down to project managers. It's that simple. And for me, we've got to stop treating these managers like that. These are managers we've watched pick up silverware, sitting there going, we want to be there. I'd love this guy at our club so we can start going and winning silverware. What's the point of bringing these guys here and killing their career? Because that's what we're doing, and that's what we're getting a reputation of doing, is being a career killer, not a career maker or a career builder, a career killer. And that can't keep continuing to happen. But look,
yeah.
you can see Conte is already getting pissed off. I know some people will say, I do hear some good arguments by saying, look, he's literally sitting there telling the truth, which he is. But he is pissed off as well. He is becoming frustrated with what's going on. And for me, it just highlights everything. Absolutely highlights everything about what's going on right now. Because a manager like him, just if he goes up to you and says, right, I need a right wing back of this caliber, a centre back of this caliber, just go and get it done.
Mm.
Don't
What I
know
would say,
is.
yeah.
That's why you hired him. You looked at his CV. You hired him based off his CV. You didn't pluck him out of thin air.
Yeah.
And with his CV, you know what he demands and what he needs.
What I would say to Anthony is, we also maybe also kind of coming to terms with when you realized how desperate Levy and Enoch were at the time of Nuno. I mean, that was when they probably had the Levy and Enoch outshouts probably heard the loudest was in that stadium at the time. And also they did really feel the pressure of making that mistake of not going after Conte originally in the summer enough. And I think Enoch and Levy were actually exceptionally desperate and probably were going to be willing to sort of say anything to Antonio
100%.
Conte to can get him in here. And also Steve D as well said there were probably 300,000 reasons why Conte came. And that might be kind of to tag on to that, Steve D. That would be part of it as well, is that Levy sort of was going to be willing to do anything to try to convince Conte to stay here and or to come here. And that would be part of the wage packet. We pay our managers more than really any other club does. And that is something that I know even Sean is sometimes a bit upset about, is one of the things that Levy and Enoch do, is that they do kind of overpay sometimes the managers that we brought in. Even Nuno was actually overpaid to begin with when you looked at him, and especially his severance package. So when you with Conte, Dave, I feel like it was probably the case that Levy was willing to make false promises as long as he could save his own ass in bringing in Antonio Conte. By bringing in Antonio Conte, kind of the pressure on Levy and Enoch was definitely sort of at least was, maybe it simmered instead of kept boiling. Let's say it sort of more was a simmer and went down to a simmer, let's say. And I think that's probably more having to do with Levy maybe trying to save his own ass than really Antonio Conte might, being convinced of something. Apparently, though, there has been a lot of sort of transparency between the two. Whether there's actually a good relationship there between them is maybe a different question. But so we've heard, Dave, from that, long Athletic article from Jack Pitbrook, it did say that Daniel Levy has been very transparent with Conte. Conte hasn't been happy with some of the things he's been transparent about. But when you are going to go for a certain kind of relationship with somebody, Dave, you would always love there to be transparency where you do at least know where they're coming from. And you do at least, you're not going to be thrown any curveballs or any surprises. I'm not saying that Daniel Levy, though, still doesn't have maybe some false promises up his sleeve or isn't going to maybe throw some curveballs. But there has apparently been reports that they've been quite transparent with each other, even despite Antonio Conte not liking maybe what he's been told. It's not like maybe there's been any secrets or anything, is what I've been trying to say. So I don't know. I guess,
I think
lot to
you're
say there,
absolutely
Anthony.
spot on though about the desperate need and saying nearly anything to get them in here.
Exactly
100%.
right.
That's a massive part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
100%, lad. But
But
like even at Jose, like, I just want to compare Jose to Conte quickly. Like, you know, we all sat, well, not we all, because I didn't. I bet the drum about Jose leaving, like, you know, giving the guy time and bringing in players that he wants. But Jose Mourinho here at Tottenham, we said he was finished. He was a dinosaur. This, that, and the other. Went to Roma, gave them a transfer list, got the players in, went and run a Europa Conference League. My point is, let's stop killing managers here. Let's stop making it hard for them. Give them what they need, and let's go on and win trophies and stop all this silly shit.
Yeah, definitely agree, Dave. Definitely agree. Let's move on to the community section here. Bit more housery on my part, I would say, in the community section on this one. Massive relief to see that some of these players are still clearly playing for Conte, and it was good to see this channel, as the beholders of this Hail Messi prophecy, to have some more material to work with. Harry Kane was absolutely ruthless with both finishes, and while Sonny wasn't back to his best, he was good in the first 20 minutes and got off his scoring duck, which is exactly what we all want at the end of the day. Love you all for the support and the vibes during the watch along. Really was a blast, everybody. Give me your thoughts here down below for the Twitter reacts. Love you all. Come on, you Spurs. And Conte, I trust. Jack. Dave, there, anything from that message that you would maybe point out? Maybe Sonny, should we touch on Sonny a little bit there? Like, what are your thoughts maybe? Like, would you agree with me that he was good in that first 20 minutes, or am I maybe sort of giving him too much credit? How would you feel about that?
I think so. I think, look, Son, he's not back to his best, but I think you're a little bit harsh there, Jack. I think he had a good opening 20 minutes, but I also think he had a decent enough second half, if I'm being brutally honest.
That's funny you thought I was being harsh.
What we're so used to seeing, right, is Son getting on the ball, running at players, right, and creating havoc, creating chances. But yesterday, there was a lot of times he got on the ball, moved the ball swiftly, you know, took on a couple of players, moved the ball inside. I think you're being slightly harsh. That's just my opinion.
That's hilarious. I was trying to be nice. Need to work on that. Need to work on my Sonny niceties. But everybody, let's get to the community section. And I forgot to say this earlier, everybody that's listening, but if you do want to see kind of your comments put up here, you don't have to do it on Twitter. You're welcome to, stay away from the Twitter right now. I know it's probably not the greatest place to be. It's always usually a cesspit. Very rare that it's calm waters over on Twitter. And if you don't like that, welcome to respond to these community section posts. We try to put them up usually on the evening of the games. I think we're usually quite consistent with that. Dave is much more consistent with it than I am. I definitely have had a few yellow cards, I would say, about it in times past with some late posts. But if you don't like Twitter, please just, put your comments down here below in the community section, and we'll read them aloud and engage with them in the way that we have today. And I think a lot of people, if you do like to see your questions answered and just sort of kind of see maybe something that you had maybe thoughts on the game that haven't been sort of maybe talked about by us or anybody else, feel free to put them in here. I think it's we like talking about the next day. I love doing the Twitter reacts. So if you don't like the Twitter, feel free to do the community section as well, everybody. Getting off to Rufus Roughcut over out in Germany. So happy to finally go mental when we score, but one good result doesn't make a comeback. We so need to keep this momentum going. He's absolutely right, Rufus. And good to see him and Jacob, Dave, going mental, over there. And, the couch was probably going everywhere. I think they broke a lamp, on one occasion as well. So maybe that's been replaced, hopefully. And hopefully Jacob as well, Rufus, was able to calm you down. Or maybe you had to calm down Jacob, because I know you guys get a little crazy over there. Big up, my man. Foggy
Slap each other with trout first, Jack.
Exactly right, Dave. You never know what they're up to. Foggy. Yeah. Foggy foam. We were really positive in the first 20 minutes. Hopefully they're working on how to start games fast. Really thought Kane played deep as that creator, because let's be honest, we don't have creativity, especially with Kulu out. But pleased to see Conte trust in youth, and that they definitely have. And what they definitely have is that hunger and energy. 3 points. We moved beautifully, written from Foggy Foam. Foggy Foam, if you're listening, absolutely love this one. Dave, have you noticed that maybe Spurs are making more of a concerted effort of starting fast, maybe in the first 20 minutes? Because I'll be honest, against Aston Villa, I thought we actually started fast and we were trying to get into the game. And then again, like kind of usual, we conceded from huge mistakes. But how do you look at it, Dave? Are we trying to start faster?
let's not forget we've tried in other games. I mean, Newcastle, we started off early. The first
Yeah,
what I think 5-10 minutes, the better
good
team
point.
created chances, didn't take anything, and then we start. I actually remember because I remember this specifically. I remember Dyer under no pressure ballooned one into the stands, and I said to you on the watch along, we all know what's going to come next. 2 minutes later, Tottenham concede, find ourselves 1-0 down. We tried to start fast, but then we cause our own problems. Exactly like last night, Jack. Started well, creating a couple of chances, ball being zipped around nicely. I was like, fuck me, I'm watching prime Real Madrid here. I'm loving life, right? And then all of a sudden, Doherty steps over a ball, lets it go out the side. Hugo Lloris, instead of letting the ball roll into his box and collect it and pick it up to relieve the pressure, balloons it out. I think Hojbjerg gave one away, Skip
Yeah.
gave one away, and then we make problems off our own back. And what did we end up doing? Sitting back for 15, 20 minutes in that second half, and just allowing pressure. And not one person had the nous to go, see that ball? I am absolutely leathering that. I'm sending that all the way back to Guay or out to the corner flag so that we can relieve the pressure and get bodies out. We didn't do that. Everything was little headers, little clearances, 5-10 yards. Palace player picks it up, steamrolls us again. You know, we make the problems off our own back by getting too comfortable in possession, end up giving it away, mistakes start happening. Starting fast, we've tried this so many times, but when we
Yeah.
just get too overconfident, just overconfident.
Really well written, I thought, Foggy Foam.
Mm.
Top man. Sean Maddox, I was only able to watch the final 30 minutes because of a work conflict, but I've been impressed with the performance I saw from Sarr. He and Hill Messi, along with Udoji, will be ballers in a few years. Now, if only we can sign a top center back to play next to Romero. I mean, what, Dave? I mean, this is getting a little out of hand here. I mean, I'm starting to get, I don't
It's like
even know
some
what to
people
say
have
because they're saying it
primary.
better than us. When they start saying it better than us, Dave, I get a little worried because I don't even know what to say after Sean. He's put it also brilliantly, efficiently as well. Top man, Sean.
It's like someone's reading my daily inputs into my diary, Jack.
I mean, Dave, maybe, I don't know, perhaps, you're whispering in your sleep or something like that, and they're just hearing you. I don't know, Dave. I mean, they're just inside your head right now. They're inside
I
your
must be
head.
sleepwalking through all their houses.
Derek Smith. Hopefully, the result will give the squad a confidence boost and that the injured players can make a swift recovery. I mean, we have had probably the most, how would you put it, kind of a, I don't know. It's just been the most conflicting injuries or the most kind of difficult injuries to deal with. I couldn't find a good word there, Derek. But Richarlison being the backup striker as well as that extra option going forward when we need a goal just hasn't been available. It's really frustrating. Like Kulusevski, which basically is where our source of creativity comes from, apart from Harry Kane, hasn't been consistently available. You actually also look at the center backs as well. Romero, kind of in and out. We went a lot of games without him. Now that we're seeing a full and confident Romero again, I mean, it's just night and day, actually. He's also, again, I think, showing exactly why he's so much better than the rest these past like 2 games against Aston Villa. And so you're absolutely right, Derek Smith.
Well, I want
Absolutely
to
right.
add to that, Jack. I don't know if you remember something that I brought up before. I think it was on a watch long or debate show that with Sanchez and Romero and Dyer beside each other, they're all over the shop because they're being dragged all out of position. But what I noticed with Romero sitting in there yesterday, Dyer wasn't dragged out of position whatsoever. Was not dragged out of position whatsoever. And I think Romero being in there is a calming influence that backline needs.
Mm-hmm.
I still maintain we still need to upgrade on Dyer, though.
Absolutely. But perhaps
Romero beside him.
But when you have 3 players like with Sanchez, etc., Dyer and Davies, even Longley, like a lot of their first steps is usually backwards, and it's we usually just invite more pressure on ourselves. Where Romero is the guy that just loves to make that step forwards instead to get stuck in. He would love to make a run forward as well and get involved in the play. He was an all-action center back, I thought, last night,
Yeah.
Dave. He was a true Rolls Royce yesterday. For me at least. Life imitates chess. Hill Messi, I love it. Was so happy Hill showed us quality. We know he was, and hopefully this is just the start of a great Spurs career. If this man is a fan of chess and he's a fan of Hill Messi, I'm liking this guy. I love that, and I do hope he has I think he's going to have probably a bright career in general. it's hard to say, how long he'll stick with Spurs, but if he keeps having these, good performances and these great cameos and just contributes in the way that he has this season, I think that Spurs career could actually be longer than maybe some anticipated. And we are the beholders of the Hill Messi prophecy. Life imitates Jess.
Even
So I
if
should
it's
definitely
not at
get on it.
Tottenham, Jack, this guy's going to have a bright future in football for sure. 100% he is. He's
Exactly.
got a footballing brain. When you look at the guy, right, he picks his moments. Go back and look at some of the stuff he done yesterday. He knows when to drop in to link up play, knows when to get on the ball and try and skin his man. And
Yeah.
one thing I seen him do to Joe Ward yesterday, I mean, honestly, I felt like leaving for 5-10 minutes and going stroking myself. It was that good. But, right, he done Joe Ward on the outside, done a step over, came back and moved in on the inside. It was absolutely unbelievable. The guy has real footballing brain about him. I like it.
Craig Bowler, I think people need to expect some bad results when we are halfway through our rebuild for the sake of their own blood pressure. Let Paratici cook Romero, Kulu, Bentancur, Richarlison, Perisic, Basuma, and the youngsters in Hill, Sarr, Spence, and Destiny is an excellent start. A rebuild doesn't happen overnight, and it will have its ups and downs along the way. Add to that the injuries that we've had, and one of our best players of last season in Sonny being completely missing so far. Our league position looks even better. Arsenal would be top if they had our Arsenal would not be top if they had our injuries. Craig has written his thesis here, Dave, kind of like the thesis that you're sort of brewing up as well, and kind of the sort of this season in general, and kind of the the bird's eye view of what's going wrong at Spurs, and kind of the I don't know, the discussions around Spurs and everything. I enjoy what kind of Craig wrote here. Actually, I think he's
One of the most
mentioning
level-headed
Paratici cooking. He's mentioning Paratici cooking, and he's also talking about the impact of those injuries and how if you had put that on any other team, let's see how they would fare.
Look, I like Craig. I think he's one of the most level-headed supporters. I'll be honest, I need to know how he does it, how he remains so calm throughout all the ups and downs. I really do, because I need to learn to do that, because as you see, I'm always red because of how much I get animated by this football club. But look, I agree. I think with the injuries, I think, yeah, look, pose them to other clubs, see how well they get on. I do think it's absolutely hampered us. But I can
Yeah.
never accept the ups and downs results regardless. I want to win, and if we had a proper squad, maybe the injuries wouldn't affect us as much as they are. But I hear you, Craig. I hear you.
Love it, Craig. Absolutely love it. I thought that was really well written, my friend.
Yeah, it was.
Jonathan Slade, I'll remain hopeful for Hill, but he's got a lot to do to make me believe he can play well in the Premier League. Fair play, Jonathan. I agree. A well-needed result and performance, but this squad still needs a major overhaul. Royale, Tanganga, Sanchez, Dyer, Davies, Sessegnon need to be moved on in the summer. We need to permanently rid ourselves of Winks, Lo Celso, and Ndombele, and the summer is probably the time to say goodbye to Lucas too. Whilst we should bring back Region. Love that energy. There are some sensible targets we can get now in the summer. Dumfries, Poro, Skriniar, Kessier, Depay, Edwards, Rabiot, Madison, Cody, Henderson, and Pickford. A lot of names there. And also mentioning how many players we still need to get rid of, Jonathan Slade has put here, Dave. And this is something I've mentioned plenty of times on the podcast, where a lot of people have kind of gone into this January transfer window kind of saying, where of Spurs, we need to be, quick in the transfer market here. I recognize that and I fully hear that, but I think we often kind of forget that we are still dealing with the issues of Steve Hitchens' squad management as a sporting director. We're still having to dig out and get rid of all of this dross and all these players that we no longer use or no longer need and simply just aren't good enough anymore for Tottenham Hotspur. And it's kind of painful to watch that Paratici, Dave, is now a full year in and he's still having to get rid of more players. I mean, it would basically be like 20, 23 players, 24 players. He's practically 2 full 11s of players he's gotten rid of, I think, at this stage. It does show that he's had a lot of work to do in this transfer market. And most of these players he's getting rid of, Dave, aren't his own signings.
100%. Look, Jack, these are players I've been highlighting for a long time. I'm glad a lot of people are starting
None
to
of
wake
them are
up
his
to
own
it.
signings.
Yeah, I'm glad a lot of people are starting to wake up for it. I'm actually interested in the Reguilon Sessegnon point. It's something I mentioned a while ago that I agree on. I believe Reguilon was loaned out. Sessegnon was kept for the English quota. But for me, I do think Reguilon's a better player. But I know, how am I going to put this? You bear with me. Right. So I understand that we don't want to be carrying extra players. We don't want to be paying any extra money than what we have to, right? Fully understand it. But we could simply just bring in players, because I have no doubt some of these guys are in no rush to leave this football club, because they know they're not going to be, they know they're still going to be registered. There's an opportunity there. They can still get some minutes across the season, and their wages are going to take a hit when they go to a less caliber club, because they're not good enough to be at this level, right? So they're hanging on to it, in no rush to go anywhere. Well, why not make them in a rush? Why not bring in a right wing back? Tell Royal, well, you're no longer registered with the club to play any games, so you want to look after your career, instruct your agent to find a club. Do the same with Sanchez, the same with Dyer, Davies, Session, Tanganga. If they're in no rush to get out of here, just simply bring in players, take the gamble, put the that they might be here after February, might still have to pay their wages. But I can guarantee you then come the summer, they will be out of here, because they don't want to sit here without playing football. Dyer has said it to him, said it himself before. He wants to play every single week. But my point is just bring them in, tell them they're not registered. You're going to face 6 months without any games or anything like that. Everyone's going to absolutely forget who you are, just a bit like what the club done with Danny Rose, even though I don't agree with that, with how they treated Danny Rose because of the service he gave. But a bit like what they've done with Danny Rose. Look, in 6 months' time, you're going to be forgotten, man. You're going to struggle to find a club. So it's in your best interest this January to make sure you're out here before deadline day. And that then basically means the club has admitted their mistakes, their errors, and doing everything they can to rectify it.
Yeah.
I understand that in an ideal world, you ship them out, you get players in, you keep the books balanced. We've done that for so long. But when we're at a point where we need the help and we're in danger of going one way or the other, this is the method. You got to be ruthless. Just get them in, tell these guys, good luck, bon voyage, enjoy training with the under-23s, and, look after your own career, try and get a move out. We don't owe these guys anything. This is my point. We owe them nothing. Absolutely nothing. So do it to them.
I just sort of, you just have to feel for the situation that he's in, because he has to balance the squad because of, homegrown quotas, all that sort of kind of stuff as well. And a lot of, it's just like, these are like 6-7 names on the list that he has to get rid of this January if he wants to bring in players. Like, everybody wants 2 center backs. He needs to get rid of a center back before he brings in 2 center backs. And he has to find a way to get rid of Sanchez, ideally Tanganga probably as well. Dyer, we all know he wants to get rid of, but we want to get rid of. But I'm not sure if that's happening in January. It's just a tough situation, I think. And so I do sort of sympathize for the headache that Paratici is going to have to go through this January. That isn't his fault, may I add again. That isn't his own fault. Like, he's come in to basically inherit this sort of disaster of a situation that's been left before him. And so I kind of sympathize that, again, Dave, like a year in, like, he's still having to clean out the mess. He's still having to clean out the dross, and he's, been pretty ruthless beforehand. And so I don't know.
Do you know what, Jack? It makes that job even harder to do, because these guys are on long contracts without ever warranting it. So that also
like
makes
to stick
not
around.
go anywhere.
Yeah.
We
know they like to stick around.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Showtime. I feel with Levy in the stands, soaking up that atmosphere with our players playing and the fans buzzing to see Spurs perform like that he will get Conte a couple of players in January. I mean, don't know what you've been listening to or Showtime, or just kidding. But interesting vibes from Showtime there. I guess maybe he's thinking Levy was inspired. I think right at this moment in time, that's sort of hard to believe. But Showtime, to each his own.
Do you know what I will say to that? He's definitely not sitting there comfortable, for sure. And if he knows what's good for him, which I think he's probably aware of it, because he was very quick to go and get Antonio Conte afternoon, though. I reckon we probably will see a couple in here in this January, but it's what we all want, right?
Exactly right. Let's hope that Showtime is right. Peter M, a good performance. Let's hope it's a turning point. Conte dodged a bullet. He should stop moaning and get on with the task of making sure the players do their best in every game. We must pray that Newcastle and United slip up, but it's still in our hands. The 2 key games are Newcastle away on the 22nd of April and United at home on the 25th of April. Win those, and we can finish in top 4, provided our results go our way from now on. So many people, Dave, are playing 5D chess here, thinking, 12 moves ahead. And honestly, we're still basking over Hill Messi.
It's a bit where I was at last season, if you remember, when we were miles away. I said,
Dark
no,
Sun G is this way too.
Gilbert.
He thinks 20 moves ahead
Yeah.
on things while we're still, talking about Hill Messi highlights and things like
I was
that too.
saying last season, no, 100%, we're still going to get top four. And ultimately, we did get in top four. This time round, though, it is a hell of a lot tougher. We've got to understand. Although I don't think Newcastle will qualify top four come the end of the season, they're going to give it their all this season, and they will be thereabout towards the end of the season. You've got United up there now, who were in turmoil the season before, so weren't really challenging us for it. They dropped off, So there's a lot more clubs coming for it now, which means there's a lot more pressure. We know how Tottenham deal with pressure. We nearly bottled it last year against Brighton and Brentford because of the pressure. So for me, I do think it's a lot tougher this time round as well. We're not helped with the drop-off in Hugo, the drop-off in Dyer, where we're just simply capable of creating or causing our own mistake out of absolutely nowhere, no matter how much we dominate the game, which gives away points, which also wasn't happening on the run in last season. Now, last season, we got our act together from February to fucking May. Brilliant. Hopefully we can do the same again. But we didn't have as many injuries last year. We didn't have midweek games last year. It was more or less just Premier League, Premier League, Premier League, Premier League. So this year is slightly different. And that's why I keep saying we need the help in the January transfer window to help steer the ship in that direction. Good comment, man.
Yeah, great comment, Peter. And we're very well. Let's just love all these people thinking so far ahead on things. Palace Haunter, very sad as a Palace fan. Is it Vieira out? I don't know. I'm getting crazy, but I don't know. It's weird because I think since the return, they lost to Brentford or Fulham. They lost to Fulham pretty bad. And then I think they won their next game afterwards, but then I think they've lost basically their last two games at home. Pretty convincingly, which is strange to lose, games at home by so many goals. Kirsten Bosch, indeed a sad day for Crystal. Body, mind, and spirit. Bring back the old Messi at Porto. I think that's like that 16-year-old Messi cameo or something. Came on for like 15 minutes or like whatever. But, I guess that's what Hill Messi was, more or less doing, similar vibes. Darren Kilbane, great to get the win. Most importantly, but doesn't change a thing. We still need Conte to be back to this window. The defense is poor and needs fixing, and one win ain't going to change that. Hopefully, Conte will change this as a right. Hopefully, Conte will change this. A right wing back and a center half needed now, and more in the summer. Come on, you Spurs. I think a lot of home truth there from Darren. I mean, like we've said probably a few times, one swallow doesn't make a summer. Sean loves saying that, and plenty of people have reminded us of that. Like, it doesn't distract from the Levy and Enoch out message as well, and it certainly doesn't maybe give us any more confidence that Conte is going to be backed. Like, even when, who is it as well, Dave? Like Showtime from earlier was saying maybe Conte will be backed after this. You and I both kind of were hesitant and sort of a little reluctant to agree there. So it doesn't really change everything, but it is just a huge relief just to see Spurs be winning. And also, let's be honest, a manager lives and dies by his results.
Yep.
Conte needed that result last night. He really needed that result last night.
100%. Huge pressure was on last night. You know what, Jack? It answered a few questions for me. Are the players still playing for Antonio Conte? Seems like they are. Does Conte still have the same passion and enthusiasm to bollock them at halftime when things maybe aren't? We're not winning or that. Well, that was answered last night. We came out second half, 4 by Palace. So there's a few answers answered for me last night. So if that means the playing squad is still playing for Conte, but then you've got to get the right players in here in January. I'm just going to answer Danny's question quickly off the back of this. So just want to ask you boys, as you were saying, what we all want is to bring in one or two players, in which we all do. But my question is, do you believe that they will be the quality to get into the first team? Well, Danny, this is what I've been saying over the last couple of days, that, and especially yesterday after the watch along as well, that like yesterday was a great win. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm in the moment. I'm in the day. No one's going to tell me otherwise. But I wasn't naive to know that we still have a lot of work to do. Still have to bring in players this January that can walk straight into that first team, like they did last January, in key positions like centre-back, like right wing-back, to help steer this ship forward, to help push it forward, so that we can learn to start dealing with possession a lot easier, because sometimes it is Dyer or the right wing-backs who are just giving away stupid possession. so we can start dominating possession a bit more, which then means it makes games easier a bit more, which from right wing back, you might get better quality in the final third, which means Kane will start gambling in the box. Some will start gambling in the box where maybe they don't necessarily unless Kulu's on the ball out there. Do I back it? Look, what I will say is, I think on this one, Danny, it's a bit tricky. But what's the definition? Where do we draw the line? Because many said last season he wasn't backed. The players we brought in weren't good enough. But we're all sitting here celebrating them today. They're some of our best players. So for me, they just have to be of the right quality and of the right age that can walk straight into this first team. For me, I've always said this, Danny. It's not about what you spend. It's about how you spend it. And I maintain that. So it's got to be two players that are good enough to walk straight into this team. That are right wing back has to be automatically better than Doherty, Emerson, Spence. Centre back automatically has to be better than Dyer, Sanchez. Walk straight into this team and off you go. But we do have to be careful of not getting caught up in the price we've paid for this player. Although usually when you do spend the bigger fees, you get a better quality player in.
I agree with the fact that we need to get somebody that needs to be first team, especially for the center backs. Danny absolutely needs to be first team quality because that's all we're asking for. It's just somebody be good enough to step ahead of Dyer. Me personally, I honestly think Dave could probably walk into the team and be able to step ahead of Dyer. I really have almost no standards at this stage where pretty much anybody could be better than him. But I think in all seriousness, though, Danny, we need to get someone that will be convincingly enough to Conte that he can just put him in right ahead of Dyer as soon as possible. And that's, probably going to take something because let's be honest, Dyer has found a way, through various methods of either being a teacher's pet or also just being that guy who speaks multiple languages in the dressing room, etc., to find a way into that first team. He always seems to find a way into that first team despite shocking performances. And so we need someone that can absolutely convincingly step ahead of him.
100%. So Danny, he has put in. He says, "Great answer, David and Jack." Yeah, look, we're not on this where we want to keep seeing youngsters come into the club. Look, I do understand that Doherty, Spence, Gil, Sarr, every club does these sort of signings, and I'm happy to bring them in and let them develop. But right now, we're in a time where January we can't do that. It has to be for the here and now, Danny. So big yourself up, brother. We've got Tyree Bennett. Big up, Tyree Bennett. Hopefully you're having a good day. He said, "What do you think of Pape Matar Sarr? Oh, you got a new nickname, Tyree. We've got one. Absolutely love it. Some people are calling him Daddy Sarr, which I also condone. I really like that name. But Pape Matar Sarr, I mean, honestly, I think I'm going to have to get that one framed. That's a good one.
You almost want to get him.
To Moussa Dembele, Jack?
It's almost like, this sort of name here that Tyree has come up with. You kind of want to maybe even get in contact with Pape Matar Sarr's mother, maybe consider maybe a legal name change, for him, because it just sounds really nice, actually. In fact, he probably would get 20 million more on his evaluation, Tyree, if he actually was able to maybe change his name legally to that. He just sounds like he's already a brilliant player, but then he sounds like twice the player with a name like that. So I think maybe he should look into that maybe while he's in the UK, Dave, perhaps get a second citizenship, and maybe with the second citizenship, get a legal name change, Pape Matar Dembele. It just rolls off the tongue. It was easy to say.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Thank you for that. Any other nicknames people have, feel free to get them in the chats. As you know, we condone nicknames, so get them in. But big up, Tyree. But look, Jack, sorry, let's keep going, my man. I cut you off rudely.
I think we're towards the end here. Let's see what we asked. We have to get to Steve D's here. We have to get to Steve D's. One swallow doesn't make a summer. Palace lost to Forest and Everton. It shouldn't be a measurement of our ambition to beat them. Conte won't be backed in the manner he needs to be successful. Ain't gonna change, mate. Similar to what he put in the Twitter there, and he's making sure that we didn't miss it, Steve D. Good man there. But do you agree with him, Dave? Right? It's exactly right. Can't get too ahead of ourselves. And maybe the reason also that Steve D has this sort of skepticism of this whole Conte project is that Spurs just don't have a history of backing managers, and they just don't have a history of, being able to support a manager like Conte. And a manager like Conte demands and needs support more than even others do. He's less of a yes man than most managers out there. And so that's where Steve D is skeptical of this whole kind of project here.
Yeah, look, I mean, he's every right to be skeptical. If you and it's not even skeptical. He's just simply going off what happened under Jose, what happened under Poch when
Right.
he wanted to rebuild. You
Right.
know, and they didn't want to do it their way. You know, which is fair enough. I completely understand that, and you can't really argue with Steve. And I don't think any fan would argue with Steve on that. To be honest, I think most fans share that frustration. You know, like why bring in Conte if you want to bring in players like who I think Spencer's a good player, but or a decent player, and we've got to give him an opportunity. But why bring in Conte, bring in someone like Spence instead of someone, for instance, I know it's probably out there, but this is a player that he likes. It's out of our price range. But someone like a Hakimi or someone, someone that's ready to go here and now. So I don't think anyone would argue there whatsoever. And I can see where Steve D's coming from.
Yeah.
But, you know, no one here is using the Palace, beating Palace as a measurement of ambition whatsoever. I stated this last night. Good win, but we can't afford to get too carried away. We've got Arsenal coming up, 2 games against City coming up, Fulham coming up, which isn't going to be easy either. So I'm not getting carried away whatsoever. But no one's going to stop me enjoying the moment. I've been pissed off with Tottenham for 2.5 months. It affects my mood. I haven't been the same for 2.5 months because I've been pissed off with Tottenham and what's going on with some of the results. So when I get a night like Palace through all the shit, you best believe I'm going to sit there and enjoy it. Yeah. You best believe I'm going to walk around at 2 o'clock in the morning, chanting Spurs songs, singing about Gil Messi, dreaming about being in Harry Kane's bed. All that sort of stuff. You best believe I'm going to do all that. For that night, for the rest of that day, I am enjoying it. It's that simple. No one's going to tell me otherwise. I will enjoy it that day, but like I said, I'm not getting carried away because I know exactly what's coming around the corner.
Yeah, beautifully put there, Dave. That concludes the Twitter reacts, everybody, and the reaction in the community section. Going to maybe take a few more comments here, and then we'll get on out of here and provide some more content for you later, and also a sneak peek on a podcast. Everybody, there is going to be a podcast to be released. Isaac's here, Shahid. Hi, Isaac, saying, "What do you guys think of Pierre Hojbjerg's performances of late? For me, he looks a little off it, losing the ball." Too easily. He's had some bad, giveaways. He's had some bad times where he's put us under pressure from those giveaways. He's not looking like the Viking Hojbjerg that I fell in love with of recent, but I think he's put in some spectacular performances this season. And before those 2 games, he was honestly one of our most consistent players this season and has been sort of playing out of his skin of late. And so I am going to continue to back him. And also the reason I do just sort of love Hojbjerg is because that season under Jose, when we absolutely demanded a midfielder of his type of quality, or just the man that could be able to do the dirty work that no one was willing to do. I always will have respect for Hojbjerg for that because I think he saved our season in that Jose season. And whether you don't rate him, whether you don't think he's really good enough for Spurs in the future, I think he needs to maybe get some respect for that season under Jose because it could have gotten a whole lot worse than what it was had Hojbjerg not been there. And I don't want to maybe bring that up again, those dark, times under Jose with those performances. But imagine if we had not had a Hojbjerg being able to clean up back there. It would have been a Winks, it would have been a Gio Lo Celso, a Sissoko. It was, dreadful times. So Hojbjerg was, for me at least, a guy that had more or less made plenty of performances nowhere near as disastrous.
Midfield is about partnership. You can't do everything in midfield on your own. You can't win the ball and spray it around and everything else on your own. It is about partnership and working in tandem together. Now, we've seen with Hojbjerg before when Winks has been in beside him. Of course, you look like half the player when you're playing with some of these guys beside you. Ollie Skip was so far off it yesterday. He was just being beaten left, right, and centre. So whoever plays beside him, if they're being skinned down that side, it automatically makes Hojbjerg look bad and automatically makes him look like he's under severe pressure because he is. Because although it's not coming down his side, it's coming down the guy's side beside him, which automatically drags Hojbjerg down. And I would say to people, I agree with this point here that he hasn't come back from the World Cup and hit the same heights he was at before the World Cup. But remember, everyone was questioning, is Hojbjerg good enough? Winks is better than Hojbjerg. Well, we brought in Bentancur. Hojbjerg played beside him. And look at the rest of the season they went on to have. Hojbjerg and Bentancur were 2 of our best players so far this season, 2 of our most consistent players so far this season up until the World Cup. So we've got to understand the importance of a partnership and that when one link isn't there, it looks completely different. It was the same when Harry Winks or Eric Dyer used to come in for a Dembele or Wanyama. That partnership in midfield that Dembele and Wanyama had looked completely different when one
Yeah.
of them was taken out.
Yeah.
It's all about partnerships in that midfield. And if one's gone, it suffers, unfortunately. But this is where the argument comes in. You've
Mhm.
got to have the right quality players to come in when this situation arises.
Isaac's I agree with you though, like, despite being a huge Hojbjerg defender, like, you're right, like, his performances of late have been nowhere near what he was in the beginning of the season or before he left for the World Cup, and that's a concern, to be honest, because we do have other players that could step in, like, he has a lot of competition there, like, he has Basuma, he has Bentancur, he has a Pape Matar Sarr that's been looking brilliant of recent, like, he's got competition there, so Hojbjerg, at the end of the day, he has responded well to when he's had pressure on him. I think he has shown that in the past, but let's be honest, he's got some competition and he probably should be looking over his shoulder. Good question there, Isaacs. And then Phil here with a question. Need to start thinking about the captaincy next season. Who would be your pick to bring in the captain, to bring in as captain the mighty Spurs and to captain the mighty Spurs in the future? Because I don't think we have a captain at this club right now. Hugo, absolute neeked.
Hojbjerg or
This
Kane.
we were just talking about Hojbjerg, but a lot of people don't rate him enough to maybe I don't know. Like if he, like we said, if he continues on this, path where like he was in the beginning of the season before the World Cup, if he continues to have that type of form and those sort of displays, absolutely that Hojbjerg,
Always and
that very
assist-wise, though, Jack, he's having his best season ever.
no, he's having his best season ever by far. But what I mean to say is that if we keep getting that version of Hojbjerg, for these next 2 or 3 seasons, absolutely, you would make him captain because then that's a guy that can hold his own in the midfield and then be, technically good enough to play with the rest, but also has that mentality that let's say other players don't. And he is a leader. And he also is a guy, Dave, that when we start kind of falling, kind of back a bit, when we start dropping deep, you always see Hojbjerg, shaking his hands and throwing his arms in the air and trying to keep the players awake and trying to keep them kind of engaged. He's always been very good at that. Whereas Hugo, we've criticized him on multiple times this season for not keeping the players' head in it, not being maybe vocal enough and trying to actually keep them alive and keep them intense and keep them focused. Whereas Hojbjerg, he's actually been criticized for being that type of guy. Some people think he's just, a throw, whatever they call, what is it like the guys that only throw their arms in the air and point at other players where to stand and stuff like that. He's been criticized for even communicating too much and being too much of a leader out on the field. So if anything, if you're being criticized too much for being a leader, he's going to be my captain.
For me, I think there's only two options. Look, a captain's got to be that when he's got to be a sort of guy that when he turns around and criticizes someone, they don't even think about screaming back because they're fearful what he'll do to them in the dressing room when the cameras aren't looking. That's got to be what your captain is. It's got to be someone that bollocks players, that holds people accountable. For me, I think you've got Harry Kane, who, even though he was injured at Ajax Amsterdam half-time, apparently went into the dressing room, bollocked them. Harry Kane the other day after the game against Aston Villa, bollocked them in the dressing room. And there's been a couple of times where Kane has stepped up to do that. So for me, I think Kane is definitely my first choice. Second choice is Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg. Look, I hope people understand what I was talking about when I'm talking about partnerships.
Yeah, Dunkel Z Dave, look what he's written here. Almost all of Hojbjerg's bad performances have been with
Yeah,
shit beside him.
yeah. And I hope people understand where I'm coming at with that. I'm not making excuses for the guy whatsoever. I'm just simply, highlighting that it does have an effect. I've played in centre midfield before. I played with a brilliant ball player where, just I do the dirty work, win the ball, give it to him, let him move it on. And then I've played with a guy who just can't fucking do anything. And it's an absolute struggle. It's a shambles. You think you've come off at a shit game because it's everywhere. Because the guy has no positional awareness, no defensive awareness, and can't do anything on the ball. So you're practically playing with just one man in there, which, it has an effect on the performance and everything else in there. But Hojbjerg is having the best season today in terms of goals, assists, than what he's ever had at this football club. Now, that's not bad for a player that we brought in here to do the defensive side of the game because Endon Fatass wouldn't do it. So we had to bring Hojbjerg in there to do his defensive work inside of the game. Now, with Bentancur beside him, he looks so much more better. And that's why I'm saying it's important with a partnership. But Hojbjerg, for me, also up there with a captain. I've even seen him talk to players after we've scored. Everyone else is celebrating. As soon as walking back to halfway, he's speaking to players, telling them, let's not get carried away, do this, do that. So for me, Kane or Hojbjerg, surely are the two outstanding candidates. For me, one captain, one vice captain. Happy days.
Phil also follows up saying, I prefer Benucci type or Chiellini type old school captain. I was calling for a Cody to come in at the time, plays in a back three, and is very vocal. We have been linked with Benucci, Phil, and we have made it quite clear, I guess, the Spurs have, that they don't want players above 30, and that guy's like approaching 40 or something, it feels like Benucci. But the guy could be like a Thiago Silva for us if given the chance. We saw what Thiago Silva was able to bring to Chelsea. He was able to bring the best out of the center backs next to him. And I think someone like a Benucci, an old school type center back, like you said, an old school captain, could probably have maybe a similar effect there. But I think that's going to
take two more comments just quickly,
sure,
Jack.
Sure.
Fox on the Hill Prince says Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg isn't a top 4 quality player. Shouts, runs, gives energies, and beats his chest. All fine, but ultimately is about quality on the ball. He isn't great, and he is hardly the midfield destroyer. I disagree slightly. But look, what you said there about beats his chest, gives energy, runs, shouts, all that. Even if we do bring someone in and he ends up being that backup, which, you would say then you're right, my man. At least we have a player that is doing all the right things, that even if we do get an injury, he steps in. Unlike what we've had before, where you look at the bench and you go, oh, well, I can either choose Endon Fadas, Lo Celso, or Dele Alli, who none of them done the right things ever. So I hear you, but even if we do upgrade on him, at least we've got a player that wants to come in and do the right things than what we were in the past. If you get what I mean, Fox on the Hill Prince. Hopefully you can understand what I mean. Sometimes I'm not the clearest. I know what I'm trying to say in my head, but hopefully you understand me, my man. But look, I can see what you're saying. I can understand. And then Sammy Spurs says Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg is a water carrying with a broken bucket. Don't see him get anywhere near any side that has won the Premier League in recent history. Look, but every team has a player like him. Chelsea had Conte. Man City has, what's his name, Gundogan, or whatever you want to call it. Real Madrid had
Rodri.
No. Bayern Munich have Goretzka. Every single top team has a player like a Hojbjerg that just does the basics. That just, when you put him out there, you know exactly what you're going to get. And he kind of sets the standard for everyone else to be at. Because it's like, well, if this guy's at a 7 out of 10 every week, you've got to be at an 8 out of 10 if you want to claim you're better than him. So I do see what you're saying, but every team does have players like a Hojbjerg in it. Maybe, granted, be better in other in aspects of the game, but every team does have a player like Hojbjerg.
What I don't like, though, right now is that even if you're not a big Hojbjerg fan, I think we're, again, ignoring the fact that he is having a better season than the majority of midfielders that they would rather have over Hojbjerg. Like, simple as. Like, he's having a better season than McKennie is having, Dave. He's having a better season than Kessié is having. He's having a better season than the majority of other midfielders who played the same position as him this season, with goals and assists to prove for it. Not even just tackles and, beatings of chest per 90, things like that. He's getting it with goals and assists, Dave. And that's where it feels like it's, if you want to be harsh on Hojbjerg, I think maybe now is the time, considering he has had 2 poor games in a row. But I think you can't slag him off too much, because he's having basically one of the best seasons of pretty much any midfielder in the league right now. And Dave, there's even that time where we were looking up where it was like 9 games in, he had 4 more through balls than even De Bruyne did. And that was when Haaland was scoring goals for fun, and Hojbjerg still was having more through balls than him. And so all I mean to say is that if you are going to maybe criticize the guy, maybe now's the time, because he's not playing his best, but he's having a pretty terrific season, and you can't forget that either.
No, 100%. Big up, Rob. Everybody, I've had good fives today. Good bants with you in the chat. Good bants through all the Twitter reacts and the community section reacts. Thank you so much for everything today, guys. Thank you so much for yesterday. In amongst all the chaos, I've really enjoyed the vibes. So for that, I can only ever be grateful, Jacko.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I had a good time last night, everybody. There's going to be some more content coming out. We're going to be releasing a podcast via Rob Domino. Looking forward to that. Everybody, do stay tuned for that one, especially if you're looking for a different voice, other than my own, as well as Dave's, and also just different thoughts, different opinions. He comes from a different stance on a lot of things, and that's exactly what we kind of take pride on in this channel, is representing different people with different opinions, and, making them feel welcome over here. So Rob is going to release that podcast. I think we also have the the fan show tomorrow, led by myself. So everybody, if you weren't able to join us Monday, and you also want to be talking about the Hill Messi, talk about Daddy Sarr, all that sort of stuff, and talk about that game up against Portsmouth, feel free to join me tomorrow for the fan show as well.
100%. Everybody, definitely will see you for the fan show tomorrow. Should be good vibes, especially heading into the Portsmouth game. Be interesting to see whether we do get to see some of our younger talents and see what they can offer. But again, thank you very much. I encourage everybody to give Rob's new podcast a chance. We're uploading it today. Just get behind it, give it a listen to, and share your thoughts and your feelings on it. It's about the what's the actual title of it called? It's
The Year Ends in One.
Yeah, Tottenham and the Underdog Curse. The year ends in one. It's about Tottenham. It's about the owners, this, that, and the other. So everybody, please give it a listen. But as always, come on, you Spurs. In Conte we trust. Na 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 na. Gil Messi, Bryan Gil Messi.
Everywhere we go.